we find out from ABC News that in the Trayvon Martin case, of course, he's a 17-year-old African-American teenager that was shot by George Zimmerman, where there's been no arrest. The lead investigator, Chris Serino, in the case, wanted to arrest Zimmerman. He thought that they had enough. In fact, he didn't even believe Zimmerman's account of the story. So now we find out that it was actually Norman Wolfinger who was leading the state investigation here, what little there was at the time, who said do not arrest him. So that is a fascinating twist in this case. We'll have to see where pressure comes on then to justify those decisions. And now that we know that, it's a terrific thing that Wolfinger has stepped aside and there's now a special prosecutor following this case. Because the fact that the lead homicide investigator wanted to arrest Zimmerman that night and didn't believe him is a very important development. Now, of course, that hasn't stopped the conservative attacks against poor Trayvon Martin. Now, remember, he's the one that died, right? And here are his emotional pleas from his parents saying to stop these attacks.
Even in death, they are still disrespecting my son. And I feel that that's a shame.
The only comment that I have right now is that they've killed my son, and now they're trying to kill his reputation.
So how are they doing that? Well, they got some damaging tweets. They went and found his Twitter account. They didn't like the name involved in the Twitter account. And then they have found 2 original tweets, some retweets, but 2 original tweets out of 150 that apparently were wrong. And this is what they're talking about now on conservative blogs. They say 2 Glock 40s, bitch, you got 80 problems. Like, oh, I can't believe he came up with that, except he didn't. It's a Lil Wayne song. It's good. Oh my God, he quoted a song. It's so dangerous. What kind of a 17-year-old quotes a song? And then apparently he was against women because he said, I'm on top of the world. 2 seconds later, I'm on top of you, girl. LOL, rockin' her world. Oh my God, a 17-year-old was interested in girls. Boy, conservatives, you really got him. And that's why he deserved to be shot? You know, God, I mean, I wish they would put some, maybe they do put thought into it. And then they're like, yeah, how do we smear this guy? I don't know, we got tweets. Let's go with this. It's really gross. Now, meanwhile, Joe Oliver is out there trying to push his version of events. And as he's doing that, the whole side of the Zimmerman case is being presented. And ABC News had a new version of events from Zimmerman's side. First, let's watch that.
And new details from Zimmerman's original statement to police, offering a different account of who first escalated things that night.
Are you following him? Yeah. Okay, we don't need you to do that.
Zimmerman followed Martin anyway. His friend Joe Oliver, who spoke to Zimmerman late Tuesday, told ABC News after following Martin for a while, Zimmerman thought he'd lost the 17-year-old, so he headed back to his car when suddenly
Trayvon came up behind George and asked him what was going on, if he had a problem. And after George responded, no, I don't have a problem, as he reached for his phone, that's when Trayvon cold-cocked him.
Cold-clocked him with what? His Skittles? So the idea is that poor George Zimmerman with his gun was randomly attacked by Trayvon Martin after he chased him down. Now, of course, we can't ask Trayvon Martin what happened because George Zimmerman killed him. Now, that's Joe Oliver, who's been defending George Zimmerman and claiming to be his friend throughout. Here's more from the Trayvon Martin investigation. ABC News reporting that, according to Zimmerman's version of events, Martin knocked him down with a punch to his nose, jumped on him, repeatedly banged his head on the ground, then tried to grab Zimmerman's gun. Now, the reason I point this out is because how convenient. Again, we don't have Trayvon Martin to ask this question to. And then after they don't arrest you, weeks and weeks and weeks later, you can come up with any story. So what story are you going to come up with? Oh, I thought my life was in danger because... Right, he grabbed for my gun. That's what it was. That's why I shot him. Yeah, it's very, very, very convenient after all of this. Now, Joe Oliver is going to take it to an absurd level next.
I was surprised. I mean, that's the term that I listened to over and over on there, and to me, it's a matter of interpretation of whether he's saying coon or goon. There are a lot of parts of this country where people proudly call themselves coon asses, in Louisiana in particular. Yeah, okay. All right. So, and on the other hand, you know, I'm a 53-year-old man, and I don't know too many people who younger than 40 who use that term.
Really? Proudly? Interesting. So we looked it up on dictionary.com. Coon-ass is a vulgar, disparaging, and offensive term sometimes used to describe Cajuns in Louisiana and southeast Texas. Doesn't sound very endearing, and it doesn't sound very positive. And why would you chase after somebody with a gun and then give them an endearing term? It's absurd. Now, one of the guys who had come up with a defense of Zimmerman in some way was Geraldo. Remember, he had said this.
I think the hoodie is as much responsible for Trayvon Martin's death as George Zimmerman was.
All right, everybody thought that was absurd. So finally, thank God, one of those critics has come forward with an apology. It's Geraldo Rivera, and he says, quote, "I apologize to anyone offended by what one prominent black conservative called my very practical and potentially life-saving campaign urging black and Hispanic parents not to let their children go around wearing hoodies. I have obscured the main point that someone shot and killed an unarmed teenager." The last sentence isn't bad. The first part of the apology is the worst apology I have ever heard. I'm so sorry for being right and for you being wrong. Yeah, no thanks on that apology. All right, now I want to bring in Professor Tricia Rose. She's, of course, at Brown University. Thank you for joining us again. Now, first of all, talk to me about these attacks. And, you know, I don't even know what motivates a human being to think, okay, somebody's been shot. Let me see what's wrong with that person. Let me see when they got suspended from high school and what tweets they had. What do you think is the motivation there?
Right. I mean, I think we have to put this drive to smear Martin in the context of the fact that no one wants to confront the outrage over a pattern of racial profiling and a set of collective experiences of racial discrimination. This isn't just about Trayvon. In other words, if no one protested, if there wasn't outrage, an effort to try to pull back racial profiling and to fight against it, to stop laws that make it easier for innocent and often vulnerable minorities to be attacked, if that were not the response, I don't think you'd see as much smearing. So the smearing is designed to justify the current state of affairs.
So the idea
that's really what it's about.
The idea is if anyone charges anyone with racism in the country, we have to defeat that. Otherwise, we'd have to admit that there's racism in the country.
We'd have to admit there's systemic racism because, you see, this isn't just about Zimmerman's personal racist or non-racist ideas. I frankly don't know his racial ideology, but that's not really the point. The point is that you could be someone who thinks highly of black people as a group and says so, but still be taking up incredibly racist ideas of criminalized, dangerous young black men and act accordingly. And that's what we have to confront, our national obsession with this.
I think that's what it is. I think that it's like a projection, and they feel so defensive about it. Nobody's racist. We're not racist.
Right.
No, I can't believe that you're bringing race into this.
That's
My God, you've made it political. But we didn't make it political. We just said the poor kid got shot. Right. They came in with all these political attacks against Trayvon Martin. Now, one other thing. Some people are criticizing Reverend Sharpton and Reverend Jesse Jackson. First, let me show you what they've been up to. Let's watch that.
Okay.
Let's not play this double standard of trying to demonize who is dead and sanitize who was the cause of the death.
In a real sense, the blood of this martyr has illuminated the darkness, and we shall maintain our vigilance and our action until justice is done.
Now, those seem like reasonable comments to me, but Reverend C.L. Bryan, who's the past president of the NAACP in Garland, Texas, said that they were being, quote, race hustlers and acting as though they are buzzards circling the carcass of this young boy. Professor Rose, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, the first thing is, you know, where is this reverend, this, you know, race hustler's reverend from? He's been trotted out from somewhere to come up with this sort of antiquarian idea. Why? Because no one wants to confront the reality. So we have to find a way to discredit. So let me put it in a different context. Let's take Sharpton and Jackson off the table. What do you make of millions of people? Are they all just dupes of these two gentlemen? Of course not. What is the acceptable mode of challenge, of concern, of compassion, which is a multiracial audience in many of the places I've seen? This isn't just black people upset. These are all Americans saying, look, we still have an issue. Our criminal justice system and all the data around it proves it. So let's deal with it. So let's stop trying to discredit it. We don't go forward together in the state of denial.
And by the way, you bring, if there's any issue they should have brought to light, it's this one. So, you know, and I think you made a really great point, as always, Professor Rose. Like, they find some random guy who used to be the president of the NAACP in Garland, Texas, and all of a sudden he's all over conservative air going, oh, yeah, I don't like Sharpton and Jackson, et cetera. And they're doing the wrong thing. It's pretty convenient. Professor Rose, brilliant as usual. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Jen. Good to see you.
All right, now later in the program, I'm going to come back to Reverend Al Sharpton and whether he's doing the right thing in the media coverage of this.